Good afternoon, Wealth Our Way Nation. What is going on? It is your main man, Charles Tank Harris, the founder and chief visionary officer of the financial literacy platform, Wealth Our Way, where our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. I have a great show in store for you today. First of all, before we get started, though, you know how I got to do. I got to thank each and every one of you who are live with us as we stream across the Wealth Our Way Facebook and YouTube pages. I want to give that Wealth Our Way Nation salute to all of the nation members who watch the pre-recorded version of the program overnight, over the weekend, wherever you can squeeze 15 minutes of financial literacy in. And a heartfelt how are you to the good folks on the Life 101 platform who listen to the audio recording of this very here program. So today, we started with all things crypto this week. Yesterday, I broke it down for you, but today, we got Hollywood in the building. We got my man, Chad Copeland is in the building. He is one of I told you before, it's only a handful of cats because I have to have reputable, reliable, knowledgeable sources when I share information. There's only a handful of cats that I trust with the cryptocurrency space. Chad is one of those people. He's writing curriculum for broad-based national companies. He's advising hundreds of people. He does his own webinar. I'm so blessed to have him here today. And before I even let him introduce himself, I want to say it was a grace and act of God that he times up to be on episode 100. So, Chad, you blessing us on the century mark, baby. Welcome to the program yet again.
Hey, thanks for having me. And first and foremost, it's a testament to you, the consistency to get to episode 100. That's a big milestone. I'm blessed to be a part of it. That's a testament to you about the content and value you provide for your audience and clients.
I appreciate that. And before we get into today and continue the cryptocurrency conversation for the week, please take a look down in the banner. We are in full swing for the 2021 Wow Wealth Building Contest. And the rules are very, very simple. You got to list 3 things that you learned from my ebook that are helping you financially. You have to tell me how owning a mixture of term and permanent life insurance will benefit you. And don't overthink that. You don't have to actually own these insurance products. You sat through the webinar, you heard everything about term insurance, what it does for you, permanent life insurance, what it does for you. If you had the money to buy both, how would that benefit you and why? And then lastly, we need a testimonial on how 15 minutes of finance or Wealth Our Way in general has helped improve your financial literacy. 5 people, 5 guaranteed winners, $200 each into your own traditional or Roth IRA will be selected by the end of the month for people who enter the contest. So get this free money and come do this. So Chad, brother, it's amazing what's been happening in the cryptocurrency space. And I don't give you enough credit, truthfully. I don't know if you know this. I knew we talk so often, but when I got my Coinbase Pro account and opened it, pretty much the first monies I put in was because of stuff that you told me. And, it's been funny. I tell people on the program all the time, and I was telling them yesterday about never investing more money than you actually can afford to invest. Like, don't put your savings in investments. Don't put your short-term need money in investments. My income, and, people think that Tank makes a lot of money. He's rich, IRS. But the reality is that I don't take my own advice sometimes. And I got so gung-ho over crypto that I was putting more money into it than I wanted to. Like, I had set a dollar cost average when I first got started. I was putting $200 a week in. Quickly, that went to $500 a week. Then it went to $1,000 a week. I couldn't get money in fast enough. I really wanted to enjoy, what was going on with this new form of currency. And what happened was, at some points, I had so much money in crypto and it went up so much that I needed the money for other things because it made me money. I was like, I got to pull some money out. And every time I have, man, it's just the Murphy's Law. I pull money out, damn thing reaches new highs. I had, and I normally don't speak specific coins, but we're going to do a little of that this week. I had Decentraland trade, MANA. I bought it when it was, pennies. It went up like 80% for me. I got out of it. And then I get a call from my man, Devlin, who will be on, I think tomorrow. And Devlin said, yo, I know you loving Mana right now. I said, why would I love Mana right now? And it was when Facebook announced the metaverse and it doubled in one day. And I didn't have it anymore because I got out of it. And, one of the things about this space, and I'm going to shut up and let you, give me your knowledge, is you really have to be disciplined in this space. The stuff I said yesterday about dollar cost averaging, about having an asset allocation, about following the trueness of your investment policy statement, because you can get emotional really quickly. Right now, we're on a new frontier. We're seeing rapid growth, and it makes us want to buy more or hold longer. If we don't have set goals of what our targets are, we could get caught up. So with all that being said, I wanted you to come on today and talk to the people about what you feel the cryptocurrency space looks like moving forward. Talk a little bit about Bitcoin and Ethereum, because those are the big dogs. And then, as we get to the end, maybe help people understand the difference between what we consider a stable coin versus an altcoin.
Appreciate it. And, Mana was one of my, my fourth biggest bag. And so, my phone was blowing up those days. But I will say though, you always, I took some off the table with Mana too. So I kept some in. I learned that over time. But, you can't get hung up on the money you missed out on, because there's a million ways to make money every single day.
Yep.
Hopping right in, I'm actually going to start at the end first and then go to the kind of the market right now. Stable coins and altcoins, right? So starting with altcoins, definitionally, altcoins is anything but Bitcoin, right? Okay. So, there's over 10,000 coins out there. So that is actually considered all altcoins. And originally it had, almost a negative connotation to it. A lot of it was like tribalism with the Bitcoin community, and the idea that, Bitcoin's addressing kind of good money. And some of these altcoins are addressing a different problem or a different use case. And so I'm one of those people. Bitcoin is a stable in my portfolio, but I wouldn't call myself a Bitcoin maximalist, from the sense of within my portfolio, I do have altcoins. But a lot of those times, those altcoins, while they accrue value, when I take profit, I can take that back and put it in a cash in a regular system or traditional system. But a lot of times I take that profit and I put it into the assets that I want to hold long term, which are the Bitcoin and Ethereum. Regarding stablecoins is kind of like a taboo topic in the space, right? So stablecoins basically provide liquidity for the market, right? You don't want to get in the situation where, because things are super volatile, if you're an exchange, where you don't have money to technically pay the people what they're owed. So, if Bitcoin or Ethereum pops up quickly and people want to sell out, and there's a large amount of people selling out, well, if the exchanges don't have enough cash on hand to settle it, because, in cryptocurrency, settlement happens basically instantaneously.
Yep.
Then there's a problem, right? So the relationships between stable coins and dollars is actually very interesting, because stable coins are just pegged to a certain thing, typically the dollar. So it's always going to be a dollar, right? And that's what money is, right? The functions of money are that it's a unit of account, it's a medium of exchange, right, to avoid the inconveniences of bartering, and it's a store of value, right? Meaning, in a way that its price is predictable and stable over time. And so what a stable coin does, or the people who issue stable coins, pretty much do the same thing as our current fractional reserve banking system, right? Which came from the idea that, Years ago, you had a bunch of people putting gold into vaults with goldsmiths. Goldsmiths end up becoming bankers because they soon realized that not everyone comes to get their deposit back at the same time, or they don't come to get the whole thing at once.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would take paper notes and loan it, paper notes for the gold and loan it out to people and get an interest from it.
Yep.
And the problem of that was that there was a lot of bank runs, and the idea of when things or people were worried about insolvency, they would come to get their money out at the same time, and the bank, with the notes that they were given from the bank, and the bank didn't have enough reserves on hand. Why am I giving you that context? Well, because the next part of that's when the central bank was created to, mitigate those bank runs by, requiring reserve requirements at first, or setting limits for reserve requirements. Their role has grown over time to really oversee our monetary policy, but that was the genesis of it. And the same thing happens in the crypto market. So if you're talking to a traditional finance guy, they might say they're worried about stable coins because some of them aren't one-to-one, meaning there aren't the same amount of reserves on hand from the company that issues them versus the amount of money or stable coins that are circulating, right? From a crypto person's perspective, like myself, I don't see any difference between that and our current banking system. In fact, since I think March 2020 with coronavirus, the central bank said that banks don't have to have any reserve requirements. Mm-hmm. So banks could literally have zero cash on hand while still loaning out money and doing things like that. And so that's kind of what stablecoins are. They provide liquidity for the market. If you're a trader, stablecoins are also great to sell into if you think we're going into a bear market or things are going down, right? Because sometimes, Bitcoin leads and the market follows. So if the whole market goes down and you don't want to take all your money and put it in the traditional system, you can sell into a stable coin and know that your money will be good, right, in terms of US dollars.
So when you see the Bitcoin Cash or USDC, are those the stable coins we're referring to?
No. So Bitcoin Cash is a fork from Bitcoin, meaning basically people in the community wanted there to be changes to Bitcoin, right? And one of the functions of Bitcoin is, or the consensus mechanism is that the longest blockchain, because it's time stamped, is the most valid blockchain. So the people who wanted to fork basically created another chain from Bitcoin that does things a little bit different than Bitcoin, but that price fluctuates just like Bitcoin.
Okay.
A stable coin would be something like USDC. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest ones is USDT, which is Tether. Mm-hmm. Right? Those will be stable coins. And if you look at their price charts, like it might go, they're pretty much stable, right? In the sense of it might go from $1 to $1.0001. Okay. Right. Or it might go to 0.9999999, but it's not really fluctuating too much because the people who issue it have this mechanism of burning the stable coins to keep it stable.
Got it. So just so everybody knows, we're not going to answer questions in the chat today because we're already about to approach 15 minutes and I still have some questions I need Chad to give us. So we're going to go a little long today, but put the questions in the chat and I'll get them answered after the chat and you'll get your answers. So let's keep going because I want to talk about, I was looking at one of the YouTube channels that I follow when they were talking about the halving process, how in 13 it did the spike up and then down 17, and now we're on the fourth 2021 where they're expecting a huge run up. Some people say 125,000 for Bitcoin, 150,000 before maybe a drop down. What are your thoughts on that halving process and how it affects the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah, so it's predictable. So Bitcoin is programmatic money, and some people call it So there's Bitcoin, the native currency, and Bitcoin, the blockchain. The native currency is the reward for maintaining the blockchain, right? But with Bitcoin, there's transparency. So the question I always ask people is, how much money is out there in US dollars? And you tend to find that no one has any idea. If you run a Bitcoin node, or if you go to a site like casebitcoin.com or .com or .org, right? And their whole idea is like they make the case for Bitcoin every single day. You can see how much Bitcoin is circulating. You can see the inflation rate for next year. You can see how much rewards miners are making, right? It's transparent money. And so the halvening phenomenon is a thing where basically the reward that miners get for basically finding the next block, and when they find the next block, they put information. That information is transactions on the block, and that happens about every 10 minutes. And for doing that, they get a reward called the Coinbase, which is Bitcoin, right? So when Bitcoin first started, the reward was 50 Bitcoin. And then the first halving happened, which happens about every 4 years, right? It's a specific block number, but for colloquially, it's every 4 years. After that happened, the miners get a 25 Bitcoin reward. 4 years happen, 12.5. 4 years happen, and now we're at 6.25, and that will continue pretty much every 4 years up into the year 2140. So there'll be a certain point where that within a given year, the amount of Bitcoin created will be less than one, right? And that's a powerful thing when you start to talk about economic concepts that our central bank can use, like inflation, right? So I think we settled each month like $120 billion by the central bank, right? That's a lot of money just being pushed into the market, which rewards asset holders and punishes people who have cash. And so long-winded way of saying the halvening is just a supply shock that happens to Bitcoin, where the amount of Bitcoin put onto the market gets cut in half every 4 years. And so when supply goes down and demand goes up, right, price goes up, and demand for money is kind of like demand for water and food. It's insatiable.
If you think about it, it looks to me like almost the way they control the diamond supply coming out of Africa. The difference being that we have now learned historically that diamonds are not scarce at all, that just the diamond conglomerates control the amount that goes onto the market to make it seem scarce. But Bitcoin is truly scarce. It's going to get to a point where there is no more. You cannot mine for it. Now, as a mathematician type of guy, I realize that you can never get to the end if you keep having something. So they'll never actually reach the whatever 21 million Bitcoin that's supposed to be out, or whatever the number is. I don't know it as well as you. 20 million. Because you're going to get to that little half thing where you'll have a infinitesimally small Satoshi-like gap between the cap. But with that being said, there will be no incentive to continue mining at that point. Then I think it will turn to transactional type of activity and fees charged for the transactions of Bitcoin, which brings me to something you were saying about the way we transacted gold and used notes is the way, people don't quite understand what to call Bitcoin. Is it a currency? Is it a store of value? We would not go into a store and pay for something actually in Bitcoin because of the amount of time it would take to verify the blockchain to see if your money was valid. You would use a Lightning transaction, which is where Ethereum and Chainlink and these other coins come into play, because it's the reserve, and there was a great book, Nick what's his name? Nick Batia, called Layering Money. And Nick Batia used to work for the Federal Reserve and the Treasury. So he knows how money works more than me and most people who are going to, be on listening to this program. So I would suggest, and I talked about it yesterday, getting that book. I listened to the audio book. But, before we go, because I already kept you a long time, I know you're busy, brother. What would you tell someone who is still nervous about getting Bitcoin?
One, like you preach, dollar cost average. I think a large barrier is that people can't touch it and people can't see it. And so how is it money? The two things I would say to that is for most people, most of your dollars are digital already, which means it's a bunch of ones and zeros on a computer, right? And two, money is just data. It's information, right? It's money allows us to exchange value across space and time, pretty much. And that money has evolved through history to allow us to do that more efficiently, right? And so money is just data that allows us to avoid the inconvenience of barter, right? And that data is subject to latency and error, right? And our, just human evolution, our monetary system will evolve to the system that, isn't filled with error or latency. And so I tell someone, look up, a lot of the settlements that banks had to, pay people back for either overdraft fees or, fraudulent charges, right? We just inherently trust them with our identity, with our money, with everything, because that's what we've been taught to do. It's ingrained in us. But I would say from the Bitcoin perspective, right, you have the opportunity to be your own bank. And it's the lowest barrier of entry to get into an asset class, in my opinion, right? Because to get a house, I need a good credit score. I need to be working, show a history of work, right? There's a lot of things I have to go to the bank to verify that I can get that house. But with Bitcoin, I just need money, right? And technically, a lot of people view it that they don't ever have to sell it because just like stocks, just like real estate, you can collateralize it, right? So on Coinbase right now, if you have enough Bitcoin, you can get $1 million out of it instantaneously. And so I would say that just like money is a data, money is a tool, and how we use that money will dictate where we end up in life. And, it is an incredible tool to use. And, by all the definitions of the functions of money and the properties of money, I think Bitcoin grades the best outside of being relatively young. And at the very worst case, it has proven over the last 13 years to be a savings technology, right? As a function of a unit of account, medium of exchange, and store of value, even though we don't really view it as a medium of exchange. In Venezuela, they do.
Yeah.
In El Salvador, they do. We view it as a store of value. It's grown 200% year over year. And so that's my biggest push for Bitcoin is if you dollar cost average and, even for myself, Bitcoin is for me a savings technology.
I appreciate you, brother, man. You spit the knowledge. We went over, but I'm sure that people appreciate it. Hopefully I can have you back in the future. I don't want to ever monopolize your time. I love and appreciate you, man. Thank you so very much. And, his handle's right there in front of his name. If you want to, go to the gram and follow my man, make sure you do that. I'm so glad that we're educating people on cryptocurrency. I don't want to see the Wild Nation members or anybody for that matter left out as we move into what I consider to be a perfect money, like a perfect currency. And I want people to learn more about it and not be so fearful of it. So come back tomorrow. We're going to talk some more cryptocurrency this week. And I want you guys always to remember wealth is not only for the wealthy. Take care. See you tomorrow.